affected by Hurricane Maria, assessing the damage and recovery efforts. More than 90% of Puerto Rico still without power. This is ABC News.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT, home, safe home.
Dave Packer, ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont and the Pass area, we'll have sunny, windy conditions today. Our high 82 with gusts to 30 miles an hour. It'll be clear tonight with a low 61 with winds to 25 miles an hour. Sunday should be sunny and windy with a high of 84 as winds gust to 30 miles an hour. Sunday night should be clear with a low 63. We'll have a sunny Monday with a high of 87. For Redlands, it'll be sunny today with a high of 90. We have a red flag warning in effect. For Palm Springs, we'll have sunny skies and a high of 90 with winds to 20 miles an hour. I'm Rod Tanner for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
The Banning Beaumont Cherry Valley Tea Party meets every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. for informal breakfast and discussion. And they meet each month on the second Thursday at 5 p.m., all at the Farms House Restaurant in Banning. Listen to interesting speakers, learn about our Constitution with our free classes, enjoy friendly discussions, and informal dining. Come join us. For more information, call Glenn Stoll, 951-316-3843.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Did you miss me? Yes, from an undisclosed location up the coast in the frozen mists of Cascadia by one man's request. And for this Saturday only until the next one, Constitution Radio with JASmius has returned to KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio, KMET1490am.com, the mighty Met. Now, as a table-setting reminder, I am the ruler and benevolent despot of the Hard Starboard Radio podcast, weekdays 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific at blogtalkradio.com/HSR Network, the fountain rabbi of conservatism, constitutionalism, Christianity, and common sense, the conservative Ronin. Look it up. It's on Wikipedia, I'm sure. And the repository for your education, edification, enlightenment, and entertainment there and at youtube.com/hardstarboardradio. I'm also a charter member 12, whose Seattle Seahawks swept down the coast last Sunday and took care of business in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum against an upstart Rams team that, with Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, that defense with Aaron Donald and Robert Quinn, Alec Ogletree, will perhaps someday rule the NFC West again, but not today. Not yet. Now, you might be wondering, where is Mr. Gibbs? Well, Mr. Gibbs is hosting a pro-life event in Temecula today. And my no doubt worthy successor as one of this program's co-hosts, Dennis Jackson, is in Berkeley, presumably getting heckled and protested by Antifa thugs, because that's just what they do in Berkeley. It's kind of a cottage industry. So it's just me and Alex Ferguson who is on line one. How you doing, Alex?
Well, I've been better, but you could always say that.
I always do. Yeah, you have a salutation, I believe, that you always start off the show with.
Well, I used to when I was of a mind to. It goes, good afternoon, buckaroos, and a hearty hello to any and all inhabitants of the Inland Empire. Welcome to our clear-eyed colloquy on the United States Constitution and all the local, national, and international issues that appertain thereunto. That wasn't so painful.
No, it really wasn't. It adds, everybody has their own little personality, a little contribution. Everyone has their own style. And it is consistent with what is done on this particular program. Everything through the lens of the United States Constitution, which is as it should be. And I wanted to start out today's excursion in broadcasting awesomeness with this piece, if I may be indulged here, at thefederalist.com. Now, there's been a lot of commentary about this going in every which direction this week, but I wanted to set the table for this topic with this particular piece, again, at thefederalist.com. David Harsanyi, it was the author. Headline, even if Trump's threat against NBC isn't serious, it's still destructive. We're abandoning neutral principles for political gain. Now, after NBC ran an article maintaining that the president had asked for the nuclear arsenal to be increased tenfold, Donald Trump, as is his wont, tweeted the following, quote, with all of the fake news coming out of NBC and the networks, at what point is it appropriate to challenge their license? Bad for country. And he followed that up with, that was on Wednesday, he followed that up the same day with, network news has become so partisan, distorted, and fake that licenses must be challenged and if appropriate, revoked. Not fair to public. Well, the answer to that, of course, is that it's never appropriate for a person sworn to defend the Constitution to threaten to shut down speech. Not even if that speech irritates him or undermines his political priorities or happens to be genuinely fake news. Trump might have framed his contention in the form of a question, but he's clearly comfortable with regulatory restrictions on speech. This puts him in league with those who support fairness doctrines, those who want to overturn the Citizens United decision, and so on. Now, when I tweeted critical comments about Trump's license idea, a follower accused me of practicing literalism. Now, this is not new. As you know, we're not supposed to take everything Trump says seriously. Now, sure, it's more than likely the president's threat is nothing more than bluster. There is less of a chance that he'll challenge the licenses of networks, whatever that means. Networks don't function on licensing tied to the veracity of their reporting. It's the affiliates that are actually licensed by the FCC. Then there is of the GOP passing any meaningful bill. It's just more fuel for the corrupt symbiotic relationship between the president and the establishment media. Each side can now preen for a cycle. But none of this changes the fact that presidents do have the power to undermine your privacy and destroy your life over free expression. It doesn't change the fact that when presidents play around with authoritarian ideas for political gain, a faction of Americans, always a different faction depending on who is doing the speaking, are either comfortable hearing it or offer rationalizations for it. All the while, we continue to abandon constitutional principles for political gain. This is especially true on the issue of speech. A forthcoming Cato Institute poll not only found that 50% of Democrats believe government should prevent people from engaging in hate speech against certain groups in public, but that 53% believe defending someone else's right to say racist things is tantamount to holding racist views yourself. It's a position similar to the one that alleges anyone who supports due process for those accused of rape on college campuses is merely defending rape. Or, for that matter, it's reminiscent of the position of Democrat senators, remember, it's just 3 years ago, who argue that Republicans' demands for due process for gun owners make them no better than terrorists. Now, recently, 200 staff members of the American Civil Liberties Union, an organization that bills itself as a defender of constitutional rights, complained that the group's rigid stance on the First Amendment was undermining its attempts to institute racial justice. Quote, close quote. Is this really the choice, liberty or justice? For progressives, many of whom are abandoning liberalism, it seems the answer is yes. But they're not alone. The Cato poll finds that 72% of Republicans would support making it illegal to burn or desecrate the American flag. More than half of them believe, as Trump once suggested, that those who do should be stripped of their U.S. citizenship. 50% of Republicans believe the press has too much freedom in America. Other polling has found similarly disturbing results. Now let's pause for a minute and go to Amendment 1 to the United States, or to the Constitution of the United States of America, which says in part, Congress shall make no law respecting Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise, I'll get it right eventually, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. So, I mean, Congress shall make. Now, that's in the context of Article 1, Section 1, which gives the lawmaking or legislative power to Congress, not the president. Now, to some extent, it is likely that answers in these polls are more about signaling on race and gender issues than supporting any specific policy. In the same way, many of the answers are likely an outlet for frustration over flag protests or the media. Even so, what the polls do illustrate is that our hierarchy of ideals has changed in destructive ways. Americans find free speech a secondary principle. The entire fake news outrage, from Trump's usage to the Facebook election scare, is an excuse for someone to limit speech. No, it doesn't matter if most journalists now lecturing you about the First Amendment are a bunch of enormous hypocrites, which they are. Nor does it matter that their biased coverage has eroded your trust. And it is biased, and it has eroded the public trust. But there is a bigger marketplace for news than ever. If you don't like what NBC reports about Trump, don't watch NBC. I mean, it's not like he doesn't have his own favorable media outlets, like Fox News Channel, for example. But even if you're not idealistic about free expression, it might be worth remembering that any laws or regulations you embrace to inhibit the speech of others, even fake news anchors, can one day be turned on you. I mean, you got to look past the next election. Eventually, a Democrat will be in the White House again. This is the lesson big government Democrats and Republicans never learn, because they never look past the next election. What are your thoughts, Alex?
Well, I call it the 2x4 technique of political posturing. There's the old joke of the farmer who got himself a mail-order bride, and they're going along the road, and the mule keeps getting in trouble. So he takes a 2x4, goes out in front of the wagon, hits the mule right between the eyes. And the new wife says, "What's that all about? What'd you do that for?" He says, "First you have to get his attention." And that's what Donald Trump does. Is he's a showman. He's full of bluster and such. In the process of which the issues that he is interested in get before the public and eventually get handled in a reasonable way. But he's a showman. He's a deal maker. He starts off with an extreme position, and then works his way back to what he wanted in the first place. I find Donald Trump to be a man who may go down as one of the great presidents of the United States when you consider the lies that have been told about him, when you consider that only Fox News and the TV networks gives him any fair treatment at all, when you consider how much he has accomplished without rancor. I mean, to say that he's going to take away their license, when you think of the things that he has endured as far as his family, the horrible, horrible things that these entertainers, so-called entertainers, smear him with, I don't understand how he can maintain the positive, cheerful attitude that he does. That's what I think.
Well, again, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, and challenging media broadcast licenses sure seems like it's chilling an attempt to abridge the First Amendment. We'll discuss this more. We'll have more discussion on this after the first break here. We'll be right back. Constitution Radio, JASmius sitting in for Douglas V. Gibbs. We'll be back. You got a dent in your door, a scratch in your fender, or a scratch in your door and a dent in your fender. If you need auto detailing, if you need fire shooting decals on the side of your car, if you need a rally stripe right down the middle of your hardtop, I don't care what it is. The Patriots at All-Star Collision are the place you want to go. They're the only place to go. 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Web address allstarci.com to see all that they do and what they're all about. Phone number 951-279-9161. All-Star Collision, the kings of rock and roll.
What's your constitutional IQ? Your quest to learn the Constitution can be fun for the whole family. Learn about the Constitution as you play the Constitution Quest board game. Learn more at constitutionquest.com.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President of Wholesale Capital Corporation and host of The Main Event, which airs every Sunday and Monday right here on AM 1490 KMET. I'm proud to be a part of the effort to make America great again, not just by supporting this station and conservative movement, but also by helping people achieve the American dream of homeownership. Whether you're looking to achieve that dream and you need financing, or you already own a home and you're considering refinancing your mortgage in order to lower your payment, shorten your term, or pay off high-interest debt, or if you're over 62 and want to look into that great financing tool known as a reverse mortgage, call me at 855-640-2020. That's 855-640-2020. One last time, toll-free day or night, 855-640-2020. I'll give you all your options, answer all your questions, and walk you through the process. And don't forget to listen to my show, The Main Event, every Sunday morning at 11 and Monday afternoons at 3, right here on AM 1490 KMET.
Licensed by the California Bureau of Real Estate, broker license number 011477747, and California Finance Lenders License number 603K610. Also licensed in Arizona by the Arizona Department of Financial Institutions, MB number 096199.
Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the businesses advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com.
And we're back here on Constitution Radio with JASmius, sitting in for Douglas V. Gibbs on this Saturday, October the 14th, 2017, 2 days after the real Columbus Day, not the holiday, which was on Monday. That was just because everyone loves 3-day weekends. But the real Columbus Day was the 12th, and that was Thursday, but this is today. And now there was something that regarding this topic that Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska, I just recently confirmed how you pronounce his last name. I always thought it was Sassy. Turns out, no, it's Sass. The E is silent. Although Sassy can, I suppose, be seen by some as an appropriate or applicable adjective for the Nebraska junior senator. In response to Trump's tweets this week about pulling, challenging or revoking broadcast licenses of media outlets that he doesn't like, Senator Sasse tweeted the following statement. Mr. President, words spoken by the President of the United States matter. Are you tonight recanting of the oath you took on January 20th to preserve, protect, and defend the First Amendment along with the rest of the Constitution of the United States? Which is a fair question. Now, let me pose this to you, Alex. Suppose that it was 2, 3, 4 years ago, whenever, and Barack Obama had tweeted or said the same thing that Trump did this week, except that he had substituted Fox News in place of the National Broadcasting Company. What would your reaction to that have been?
Well, I wouldn't have to look for a fictitious situation. With these politicians, it's always a good idea to look at what they do rather than what they say. As I remember, Barack Obama tried to have the Fox network removed from the White House press corps.
Mm-hmm.
His Attorney General, I think it was Eric Holder, testifying before Congress, said that no news people were under investigation. And it turns out that while that was going on, I can't remember his name, but one of the top reporters for Fox News was listed as an unindicted co-conspirator and under investigation.
Yeah, that was James Rosen, as I recall.
There you go. That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at totalitarian, genuine, honest-to-goodness, disgusting totalitarians who would take all of our rights away if they could, compared to a guy who has a flamboyant, blustery style. I don't think that Donald Trump is a forbidder of free speech.
Yeah, it sure sounds like he wants to shut down or at least challenge or constrict free speech that he doesn't like. Now,
does he have their attention?
Well, go ahead.
No, I'm just asking, does he have their attention now?
Yeah, but attention for what? How is this going to change the media's coverage of Donald Trump? It's just going to make it worse.
Well,
don't you think?
I think the public is watching this tennis match of bravado and making their own conclusions. There's a difference, again, between an offhand comment about the possibility of canceling a license and actually running a secret investigation of news people, and I think his family. They went after his family as well. This is the difference between a real rat and a hamster.
Well, Trump's tweets, according to the Trump White House, are official White House statements and official White House policy. So,
well, as you say, he doesn't have the power to do that anyway.
Well, see, I tend to think that there is a lot of insubordination inside the White House, and what I mean by that is that I think that especially Chief of Staff John Kelly, he probably gets a lot of orders fired off to him by Trump when Trump is in one of his angry moods, that General Kelly just kind of nods his head and says, yes, sir, and then just doesn't follow through on it because it would be insane. or it would just create way more problems and difficulties than it's worth. The last Republican president who was like that was Richard Nixon, because it was in H.R. Haldeman's, Nixon's chief of staff. It was in his book, The Ends of Power, in which Haldeman wrote of, he gave several examples of Nixon saying, well, I want this reporter tailed. I want his phone tapped because a reporter who did a story on, unfavorable to Nixon, and it just, angered Nixon. So he said, I want him tailed. I want his phone tapped. And Haldeman would just kind of nod his head and say, yes, Mr. President, and then he wouldn't follow up on it. And then sometime later, Nixon would ask about, did you have that phone tap put on, or whatever, put under surveillance on that reporter that wrote that bad story about me? And Haldeman would say, no, Mr. President. And then once Nixon had calmed down, he would say, yeah, that's probably good that you didn't do that. And I think there's a lot of that goes on with Trump, because Trump is impulsive. Trump says things or orders things that would just be terrible. And see, the difference between Nixon 40, 50 years ago and now is that now Trump puts all that stuff out on Twitter, and in the process creates a lot of unnecessary difficulties for himself that he really doesn't need. And I don't understand Trump's compulsion to go out and make more enemies. He seems like he is not happy unless he is completely besieged by all these enemies, and he's counterpunching, and that's not a way to govern. That's why you hear the term chaos used in connection with the Trump White House. It's just all this fighting and counterpunching and back and forth, and
well, this is where we differ. I see a man like Nixon or Trump hiring a major domo to run interference when things get shaky. That's part of the process. You put people in position to help you out that way.
Oh yeah, General Kelly's. That's the best hire Trump has made, in my opinion.
The difference is that Nixon and Trump will bluster about unconstitutional measures, but when you turn around, like they used to say, Nixon wanted to use the IRS against the Democrats.
He did.
Well, Obama used the IRS against the Democrats.
Yes, he did.
He has Lois Lerner in there shooting down applications for tax-exempt status. He had the guy's phones are tapped. They're using the FISA law to have powers investigate people that she's got nothing to do with. These people walk all over the Constitution. They shred it. They use it for toilet paper, and the American people seem to think there's some kind of similarity between the two. It's the difference between a fly and an elephant.
So you don't think that Trump means it? Doesn't think he means it at all when he says, "Well, we should pull the licenses of NBC." You don't think he means that at all? He's just saying it. He's just trolling.
I think that he's not going to use up his political capital trying to pull down NBC. What he's doing is he's pointing out to the American public that these people in an alternative universe would have their license taken away because they are so disreputable, so dishonest, so vicious in what they do. You watch these newscasts, and you just wonder how people can grow up in a beautiful country like this so demented and diseased.
So they deserve to be taken off the air then?
I didn't say that. I said that the American public needs to wake up to what's being done to them. For the last several decades, the American public has been brainwashed by the liberal left in Hollywood, and we've gotten so used to it, we accept it. We're like sheeple, the American sheeple, and it's taken a Donald Trump to wake us up to the fact that there's an establishment, a partnership between the Republicans and the Democrats who are running this country for their benefit and not for the will of the American people. And the more we understand that, the more we'll be able to take action that is constitutional.
And yet Trump got elected.
Yeah, well, he got elected because the silent majority has been waiting for a man like him to come along.
Oh, I don't think they're looking for a man like him necessarily. I think anybody with an R after their name would have won last November. But now how much of this is driven by reactionary anger and how much of this is driven by conservative principle? That's really the question.
There's been all kinds of guys with an R behind their name that didn't get elected, you'll notice. Trump got elected
that kind of gets back to my question. There were many people. There was a total of 17 candidates on the Republican field, and 16 of them were actual Republicans, and then there was Donald Trump. Now, Doug has said for years that the GOP has been infiltrated by progressives. And then when it actually happens 2 years ago, then all of a sudden everybody forgets. It makes me wonder how many people who called themselves conservatives were really conservative, or were they just anti-liberal? Because the two are not the same thing. I mean, it seems to me that anybody who could condemn Barack Obama, for example, for trying to throw Fox News out of the White House press pool, and then turn around and make excuses for or defend Donald Trump for threatening the broadcast licenses of NBC affiliates is just not consistent. If something is wrong, it is wrong no matter who does it, regardless of the letter they have after their name. If it's just a question of, well, it's wrong if they do it, but it's okay if our guy does it, then that's not principle, that's tribalism.
I'll say it again. It's wrong if they do it. It ain't so bad if our guy just makes a blustering reference to it. There's a difference.
Well, if the partisan labels were switched, I really doubt that you would be saying that.
I would if Trump had not taken any steps in that direction, whereas Obama used every power in his hand to corrupt and pervert the Constitution of the United States and remove the power from the people.
Well, sure, because the Republican Party has not yet been as corrupted as the Democrat Party has clearly become. That there's nobody, not even among Trump's cabinet, White House, Chief of Staff John Kelly, FCC Chairman Ajit Pai, or anybody on the Communications Commission, nobody who would actually say, yes, and I'll get right on it, and then do it.
There's something wrong with the sound. You're burbling. I can't understand you.
Can you hear me now?
Sort of. Let's keep trying, I guess.
Sort of. You hear me, Sean? Okay, no, I was just saying that it just goes to illustrate how the Republican Party has not yet been corrupted as much as the Democrat Party has been, because when Barack Obama sicked the IRS on Tea Party groups 5 years ago, there was Lois Lerner just willing to, on the same page, on the same sheet of music, willing to follow instructions, follow directions. Whereas nobody in the Republican Party would actually carry out a blatant First Amendment assault on the National Broadcasting Company. And that's good for Trump, because if if the Republican Party were as corrupted as the Democrat Party has become, then they would carry us to such destructive and, frankly, crazy directives.
Well, it goes a lot deeper than that. The Democrat Party is basically today a totally socialist party. They're statists. They want to make the citizen into powerless subject instead of a citizen. They want the state to have all the power. They want dependency. They do not want any standard of truth. The Republican Party is at exact opposite of that position, and therefore we can expect a lot better out of them in the same situation.
And yet both parties are two sides of the same coin that is no longer currency, and that's why Donald Trump had to be elected president. Do I understand that correctly?
That is correct, yes, because Donald Trump cut through the BS and said, let's get down to the real issues here.
So the Republican Party is better than the Democrats and just the same as the Democrats at the same time.
No,
I'm not sure if I follow that, but let's close the segment with and this particular topic with this quote from Thomas Jefferson in a letter to William Roscoe, December 27th, 1820. This institution, referring to the University of Virginia, will be based on the illimitable freedom of the human mind. For here we are not afraid to follow truth wherever it may lead, nor to tolerate any error, so long as reason is left free to combat it. We'll be back after this break with more Constitution Radio. JASmius sitting in for Douglas V. Gibbs. We'll be talking next about, let's see, get this up here, America's Dual Constituency, the elegance and beauty of the United States Constitution. We'll be right back.
The true patriots of All-Star Collision have been proudly serving the Inland Empire for over 20 years. Built on honesty, integrity, quality, and old-fashioned customer service, we offer lifetime warranties for our work, and every vehicle serviced by All-Star Collision is washed, detailed, the headlights polished, fluids are checked and topped off, safety checked, and returned in showroom condition. We offer free estimates, are approved by major insurance companies, and accept all claims for all cars and trucks. We use computerized frame straightening to factory specifications, offer fiberglass body repair and paint, free local pickup and delivery, and after-hours towing. Mention this radio program at drop-off and receive $100 off or a free rental car for up to 5 days during your repair. Visit us at allstarci.com or at 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Call us at 951-279-9161. We are the kings of wreck and roll.
The Banning Beaumont Cherry Valley Tea Party meets every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. for informal breakfast and discussion. And they meet each month on the second Thursday at 5 p.m., all at the Farms House Restaurant in Banning. Listen to interesting speakers, learn about our Constitution with our free classes, enjoy friendly discussions, and informal dining. Come join us. For more information, call Glenn Stoll, 951-316-3843.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President of Wholesale Capital Corporation and host of The Main Event, which airs every Sunday and Monday right here on AM 1490 KMET. I'm proud to be a part of the effort to make America great again, not just by supporting this station and the conservative movement, but also by helping people achieve the American dream of homeownership. Whether you're looking to achieve that dream and you need financing, or you already own a home and you're considering refinancing your mortgage in order to lower your payment, shorten your term, or pay off high-interest debt, or if you're over 62 and want to look into that great financing tool known as a reverse mortgage, call me at 855-640-2020. That's 855-640-2020. One last time, toll-free day or night, 855-640-2020. I'll give you all your options, answer all your questions, and walk you through the process. And don't forget to listen to my show, The Main Event, every Sunday morning at 11 and Monday afternoons at 3, right here on AM 1490 KMET.
Licensed by the California Bureau of Real Estate. Broker license number 011477747 and California Finance Lenders license number 603K610. Also licensed in Arizona by the Arizona Department of Financial Institutions. MB number 096199.
Here we come again to the third segment. In the first hour of Constitution Radio, JASmius is sitting in for Douglas V. Gibbs. I'm not, see, I'm used to doing a 2-hour podcast, and now this is a 2-hour radio program. So that's kind of cool. It's words I've never said, certainly not before the hallowed CR, Constitution Radio, Gold Press Latinum microphone before. Now, I don't know. I'm not really much of an art person, art appreciation, but I'll tell you what. Looking just aesthetically at the United States Constitution is it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's sublime. It is balanced. It is elegant. It is logical. I think that if any alien race from the Star Trek universe had been tapped to write a document like that would have come out like the United States Constitution, it would have been the Vulcans, because it is so logical. It makes so much sense, and it is expressed as Doug produced for the Constitution Corner segment today, in America's Dual Constituency. Now, the American system's dual constituency is a system where both the people and the states, oh, okay, all right. But the American system's dual constituency is a system where both the people and the states are citizens of the Union. Remember the states, ladies and gentlemen? You know, the creators of the federal government through the United States Constitution, the holders of original authority, except for only those enumerated powers which were granted to and delegated to the federal government in the United States Constitution. He's back. Glad to have you back with us, Alex. But the American system's dual constituency is a system where both the people and the states are citizens of the Union. The arrangement creates two separate bodies of voters. A dual constituency is a prominent example of what makes the American system truly exceptional. Now, early in the history of the United States, the state's voice was more prominent in the process. Again, remember the states? Since 100 years ago, when the 17th Amendment was ratified, and nobody really thinks about the states much anymore. See, the states appointed the members of the United States Senate prior to 1916, when the 17th Amendment was ratified. Practice changed after the ratification of the 17th Amendment. The states followed the model prior to the 17th Amendment by allowing it. This is like a kaleidoscope, you know, where shapes, you know, just shapes inside shapes inside shapes. The states followed the model prior to the 17th Amendment by allowing the counties to appoint the members of the state Senate. The same system on the state level. It's beautiful. The states appointed the electors who would vote for President of the United States. The gradual change toward democracy began as a result of the urgings of Andrew Jackson, another loudmouth populist, who believed the United States should be a pure democracy. By 1828, all but a couple states' electors voted in line with the popular votes of the states. The states were the final arbiters of the United States Constitution, not the federal courts. This has been changed by two words that are an abomination in the American civic lexicon: judicial review. Look it up, Article 3. You will not find judicial review as an enumerated power given to the United States Supreme Court. Well, that was Justice John Marshall in 1803 in Marbury versus Madison. The state militias enjoyed a dominant position in the protection of the states, both from invasion and from the potential tyranny from a central government. There is a current attempt to, well, of course there is, to federalize all state militias, including the National Guard. Now, only the states administered local issues through legislation and execution. I think there's a term for that. It's federalism. Yeah, I knew that would come to me. Only the states paid a tax to the federal government in order to satisfy the federal government's annual budget, taxing the people separately, the states on the state level, to recoup the funds. Again, infinite regression, same template at each level. In this way, the states acted as a wall of protection between the citizens and the federal government's voracious appetite for tax dollars and unconstitutional spending. This form of indirect taxation existed until the 16th Amendment altered the system to allow the federal government to directly tax the citizens. I mean, that's one thing you could say about progressives a century ago. They were still progressives, but at least 100 years ago, they actually went through constitutional processes to wreak this mischief and havoc, as opposed to today, where they just do it, and who cares what the Constitution says? You know, I mean, if they had had their way, the Constitution would have been written with Acme disappearing, reappearing ink. And that's how they operate. Remember, we made reference earlier in the program about just 3 years ago, the Democrats in the Senate, back the last time they were in the majority, introduced a constitutional amendment to repeal the First Amendment, in whole or in part, and every Democrat senator voted for it too. So, I guess the Democrats are getting honest as they get more radical. Interstate commerce was only a federal concern when there was a dispute between the states. That was one of the roles of the federal government, is to adjudicate, to arbitrate interstate disputes. Back, that gave meaning to the term interstate. You never hear about it anymore. Otherwise, the federal government refrained from interference. I mean, can you just imagine the federal government refraining from anything? It just sounds so alien. It would be so refreshing. And, of course, county sheriffs are our elected constitutional officers, and we're the final protection against unwarranted federal policing activities, although if anybody believes that that's why Donald Trump pardoned Joe Arpaio, they just haven't been paying attention. But yeah, just picture the federal government refraining from anything, Alex. That's just something I have a great deal of difficulty imagining, because really none of us are old enough to have seen it.
Well, these people are, you say they're becoming more honest. I'm saying that they're traversing the stages of revolution. The first stage of revolution, there are no weapons, there are no physical threats. It's all building cadres and spreading the philosophy, the dogma. The second phrase, you start getting into confrontations, hit and run, trying to get the authorities to commit atrocities. People don't realize that, but these revolutionary movements have to have atrocities in order to smear the opposition with those atrocities and get the public on their side.
So basically, like now with Antifa, for example.
They smash windows and set cars on fire, hoping that the police will overreact. And when they don't overreact, they accuse them of it anyway. It's all this stuff was worked out 100 years ago. The techniques are clear and identifiable. But the point is that the Democrat Party has been a repository for wayward communists for decades. But now they have pretty much taken over the party. And the destruction of the American Constitution, piece by piece, is their goal.
And yet, the Democrats are completely out of power at the federal level. They only have they only control 6 state legislatures out of 50, and they only have a third of state governorships. They lost over 1,000 state legislative seats over the past decade. So
Right.
that would suggest that while they're definitely attempting to do everything that you just said, they're having a difficult time selling it to the American electorate.
But they have taken over all the selling positions. They've got the teachers union. They've got the colleges. They've got Hollywood and TV. Many of our mainline churches. They're in a position that is enviable by any totalitarian organization. But the American people is a noble people. The American people don't want to be sheep. And when they find the noose tightening around their neck, they tend to throw it off, which is what we're experiencing now. But the fire is lit, and the heat is up. And this is, to me, this is the moment that America will prove itself to be the great democratic republic of all time, or a noble experiment that failed.
Perhaps, although there are changes that have taken place on the right that really suggest that a lot of conservatives in the process of adapting this fight mentality, and this, let's fight fire with fire, let's give them a taste of their own medicine. You can make the case that a lot of conservatives have become corrupted by that and are in the process of becoming exactly what they have condemned for many, many years.
Which is the establishment.
Well, which is the left. You can call it the establishment. I don't care what you call it, the establishment, the elites, whatever. I don't see how becoming like one's enemy, becoming the opposite side of the same coin that, as I said earlier, really no longer has currency, is something that is a good idea to do. Shouldn't our side, shouldn't the right hold itself to a higher standard rather than adapting the left's tactics?
Ideally, absolutely, but there are going to be many a slip between cup and lip. There's going to be mistakes made and people who need to be counseled. But when the election between Trump and Hillary took place, and it looked like Hillary was going to win, I was convinced that human civilization was done for. We've got a chance now, and some people are screwing up.
All right.
But we've got a chance now to save our wonderful republic.
Well, that's the thing about partisan politics getting overheated, in my estimation. Because I thought the same thing when Bill Clinton got elected in 1992. There hadn't been a Democrat president in my adult lifetime, but the country survived. Barack Obama was in power for 8 years. There were a lot of us who thought that, well, he's going to just declare himself president for life, but then he left on January 20th, 2017. So there will, as partisan and as heated as things get, America will survive. They survived Clinton, they survived Barack Obama, and we can survive this too as well.
You got to remember the damage that these people are doing while they hold office. For instance, I'm going through my old newspapers.
Well, we gotta go to the top of the hour break pretty quick, Alex.
All
Want
right,
to tie
I
it
can
up?
quickly say that going through my old newspaper clippings, I'm finding article after article, and I've got a 60-minute segment on it, where Bill Clinton sold our military secrets to the Red Chinese. He took in an incredible amount of illegal campaign donations. And
Yeah,
he
I
sold them
remember. I
everything.
remember. This is a hard break, Alex. We're going to have to
All right.
close it and go to the top of the hour break, and we'll be back with hour number 2 of Constitution Radio. JASmius sitting in for Douglas V. Gibbs after these commercial words and the top of the hour news. I can feel the super soldier serum coursing through my veins. And hour number 2 of Constitution Radio. JASmius sitting in for Douglas V. Gibbs. And I understand that hour number 2 begins, the first segment is, what have you read this week, Alex?
Well, I've been reading clippings from long ago, but I had hoped to read a poem on the air here. What do you say to that?
Sounds good to me. Let her fly.
Okay, this one is called America, Land That I Love. We love to sing of her sparkling waters, lofty mountains, shaded valleys, thrill sons and daughters. Waves of golden grain stir up pride deep down inside. These great blessings of nature are known far and wide. Oh, yes, indeed, there are other nations that can boast of such beautiful vistas from heartland to coast. But in only one country are we citizens free. Our beloved Constitution makes us that guarantee. Sow the seeds of freedom in your own native soil. Reward your hard workers with the fruits of their toil. Praise our great God Almighty with gladdening voices. Let your parliaments ring with the wisest of choices. God gave us this land, then smiled down from above as we build our great country out of justice and love. We are a beacon of freedom for folks everywhere, a pathway from bondage for those who would dare.
Outstanding. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that it? Or?
That's it.
Very nice. Is that a recent composition?
Yeah, it's about 3 months old.
Outstanding.
They come to me unbidden.
So, because see, Doug told me that you have gained a nickname. You're known as the Commie-hunter.
That is correct.
That is correct.
And I don't take to labels easily. I wouldn't adopt one that was imprecise. But this one I feel deserves all the notoriety it can get.
So you found any this week?
Oh, geez, they used to say, "Oh, he thinks there's a communist under every bed," and my answer is, check under the bed. They're all over the place.
That would equate them with monsters, right?
Yeah, the difference is that the monsters are fictitious, and the communists are far more than just real. They're immediately threatening.
Well, it's that I think that informs the metaphor that parents don't tell their kids that there are monsters under the bed. The kids tell the parents, and maybe the parents should listen. Although every time I looked under my kids' beds when they told me that, all I found were dust bunnies. But maybe that's the form they take when somebody's looking at them, and when they're not looking at them, then out come the dust-covered hammers and sickles.
Well, check with Dennis Jackson, our co-host. He's promoting a movie that's called The Enemy Within. and he details many of these communists that are now in Congress and working as hard as they can to turn us into a totalitarian slave state.
So that there's the battle is always ongoing. Yeah, I mean, well, it's not difficult to pick out examples of that. Like Keith Ellison, for example, who is an Islamo communist and doesn't make any bones about it. Well, basically, anybody who likes or follows after Bernie Sanders, who was a once and arguably current wobbly, Workers of the World Party, and you can go down the list in the Senate as well. They're not hard to find, and really they're not trying to cover themselves. They're not trying to hide it. And really, they haven't been trying to hide it for upwards of 20 years now. After the 2000 election and the post-election campaign in Florida, where Al Gore tried to sue the presidency away from George W. Bush, they've been open and above board that this is who we are. Yeah, we are socialists, and it took 8 years of constant agitating, but they got their Messiah, their light bringer, in 2008. And remember, they talked about the permanent Democrat majority, because that's what the left always does after they win a national election. They just declare, wow, the 2+ century debate is over, and America has chosen socialism, and Republicans are dead, and we're all socialists now. And then fast forward 8 years, they thought they were in power forever. And then fast forward 8 years, and they thought that Hillary Clinton was, I don't know what they thought Hillary Clinton was. I'm still astonished that they actually nominated that woman. But they thought that, it was just going to continue, and they couldn't lose. And they were so confident that they could never lose another election that they nominated the worst national major party candidate in American history. And she couldn't even beat Donald Trump. So now that's why they've lost their minds even more than they had before. That's why you have Antifa running around doing starting riots and trying to shout down speakers, conservative speakers on campuses and elsewhere. That's why you have them in the resistance, which is one of the most brain dead concepts I think I've ever seen. That's why that's why the Democrat Party is lost 1,000 state legislative seats, and lost the Senate, and lost the House, and lost the White House. They don't have anything, and they don't know what to do.
Look who they nominated for president. They've got Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton are both self-avowed followers of Alinsky.
Saul Alinsky, yeah.
Saul Alinsky is a communist.
Yes, he was.
His goals are strictly to take over America as a communist state. He doesn't delineate what that's going to be because he doesn't want to scare people, but there's no question that that's the goal that these people have. So you got the Democrat Party putting forth two candidates in the last several years, both of whom are dedicated communists. I'd call that a little threatening.
Well, I think Barack Obama was a dedicated communist. I think that Hillary Clinton was at one time, and then she just became a glad-handing grifter and seeker of power for its own sake. I think she would have said anything that she had to say. She didn't say anything that wasn't focus grouped. I mean, once in power, I don't really think she had the brains to really do anything significant, but she definitely was a communist at one time.
You know what the difference between a communist and a socialist is? A socialist is a communist that doesn't have the guts to fight for what he believes in.
Yeah, well, they seem to like Bernie Sanders. But now that I think about it, Do you have an early pick for who the Democrat nominee is going to be in 2020?
Probably Joe. The previous vice president, Joe
Biden.
Biden,
who will be 78 years old in 2020.
Yeah, they're going with the old communist jungle leaders like Ho Chi Minh. That are, the older they are, the more.
Well, it depends on if the Democrats regain their marbles. Because, you see, I was of the opinion that the Democrats are never going to nominate, well, definitely never going to nominate a white man again, and maybe not even a white woman. Yeah, I mean, they did with Hillary Clinton, and look how that turned out. So I would keep my eye on Kamala Harris. I'm not saying that that's that they should. I'm saying don't be surprised if they do, because think about it. Kamala Harris, she's female. She's African American. She's from California. Everything the Democrat base loves.
She's pretty.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Good looks have a lot to do with it when you're talking about Democrats.
Well, yeah. Well, some I don't find her particularly fetching myself, but some.
She's not particularly fetching, but she is fetching.
But some definitely might. And you know how completely gone lost in the mania of identity politics the left is. So she's got everything that they could want. She's like I say, female. She's African American. She's communist. I mean, she's stupid, which comes out every time she opens her mouth in a Senate hearing. So I mean, she's got everything they want.
Well, I look at the Democrats with a jaundiced eye, I'm afraid. The extent of their hypocrisy is mind-blowing. Just for example, I'm going through these clippings, and I come across Al Gore in 2000, and the title says, "Gore's links with Russians now a liability."
Now a liability.
Yeah. Al Gore yearned to draw attention to his close working relationship with then Russian Prime Minister Viktor B. Chernomyrdin. Republicans in Congress are demanding to know whether Gore made secret deals to let Russians sell submarines and other valued weapons to Iran. GOP candidate George W. Bush charges, etc. So here's Al Gore tied up with the Russians and supplying their client states with modern weapons. Says Gore's 1995 secret deal on arms sales they point out was publicly announced at the time, although some details were, etc. Listen, Al Gore's father, Gore Sr., was best friends with Armand Hammer. Mm-hmm. Armand Hammer was best friends with V.I. Lenin. Mm-hmm. He was a hardcore communist. And through his workings with the Russian government, he became rich enough to basically buy Occidental Petroleum. He then went over to Libya, and through his being a senator, worked out all kinds of deals with King Idris of Libya, basically just handing over Libya's oil to Occidental Petroleum. A guy named Muammar Gaddafi was then given the impetus to pull a revolution in Libya, and that's why we've got everything all the way up to Benghazi, is because Al Gore and his father were raping the Libyan nation. But you don't hear a lot about that.
Well, that's because Al Gore is pretty much irrelevant. It has been for 17 years, and he comes by it very honestly. Well, let's go for a change of pace here. Let's get into the big stories. The Car Star All-Star Collision Big stories of the week. Car Star All-Star collision located at 522 Railroad Street in Corona, California, 92882. The Kings of Wreck and Roll at 951-279-9161. This first one, now, did you ever watch WKRP in Cincinnati back in the day, Alex?
Lonnie Anderson was my favorite. She had wonderful assets.
Yeah, I was always a Bailey Quarters man myself, played by Jan Smithers. But I always liked Mary Ann over Ginger, so that's just me. But there was an episode. Remember the
by the way, I'm old enough to have a thing for Princess Summer, Fall, Winter, Spring on the Howdy Doody program. So.
Okay, it's probably more information than we needed, but whatever floats your boat. I think it was in the first season of WKRP where you remember the Thanksgiving episode where Mr. Carlson got the idea of doing a promotion where he was going to drop live turkeys from a helicopter?
I thought the turkeys could fly.
and then Les Nessman was there to do the on the spot call, and he said, "Oh, it's just a beautiful sight, ladies and gentlemen. And there's a dark object coming out of the helicopter. Oh, I don't know what it could be. Oh my God, they're turkeys! Turkeys are hitting the ground like sacks of wet cement." And then on the closing scene, Mr. Carlson says, "As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly."
There you go.
I bring that up because apparently that actually happened in real life recently. It's from ABC News. Headline: Dropping turkeys from planes triggers Arkansas festival flap. Now, to some, it's an Ozark Mountain Mardi Gras that includes live turkeys being dropped from a low-flying plane to an eager crowd below. To others, it's just animal abuse. Now, I swear I'm not making this up, folks. The 72nd Yellville, YELLVILLE, Turkey Trot opened Friday with questions over whether the turkey drop portion would continue. The Chamber of Commerce for the small northern Arkansas city of Yellville had distanced itself from the tradition it once endorsed and is hoping a phantom pilot won't fly over this weekend. But that has not stopped thousands of people from emailing the chamber about doing more to protect the birds. "Why don't you jump yourselves with no parachute? Think you'll like it?" one person wrote to the chamber on Monday. Others used more colorful language. Now, Arkansas is one of the nation's top turkey-producing states, and the weekend festival is meant to be a celebration of the bird. There's a 5-kilometer run, music, dancing, and the Miss Drumsticks pageant, in which contestants are judged only on their legs. Of course, turkey also stars on food vendors' menus. It means fall is here, the Yellville Chamber of Commerce wrote in an open letter. It means a turkey dinner a few weeks earlier than the rest of America. Yeah, if you're throwing them out of helicopters or out of planes, I think you're going to have a lot of turkey dinners a few weeks earlier than the rest of America. It means homecoming for many. Turkey Trot is so much more than turkeys being released from airplanes. So it's true. It really happens.
So you didn't know that I'm an Arkansas boy?
Well, I mean, did you know about this?
I knew Tyson. I hate his guts. He turned our ranch into a golf course. But I spent
really.
You don't
like golf courses.
Number one, I hate golf, and number two, that ranch was idyllic. It was something out of a dream, and it was totally destroyed by that money gouging uncle of mine. But
you know who loves golf courses and who owns a bunch of them. I trust.
But I'm talking about chicken guano. when I was a kid, I would get work with the local chicken ranchers, shoveling chicken guano out the windows of the chicken houses, which were long, like they looked like World War II barracks, and the air would fill up with chicken guano dust. And when you got through the day, you'd blow your nose, and 2 bullet-shaped plugs would come flying out of your face, gray-black and stinky. Then they'd spread that stuff on the fields, which made sense, except that it turns out that I think it's phosphorus gets into the water. It turns out it just ruins the rivers that I love to swim in so much. But no, I can talk about Arkansas all day long, and most of it just wonderful memories. That's where I'm going when I die and go to heaven.
Yeah, not really. I'm not trying to run down Arkansas. This just happens to be where this story took place. But throwing turkeys out of airplanes. That was story number 9. Story number 8. If I can get the story to come up on my tab here. Ted Lieu. Ted Lieu is a Democrat. I think he's from Ted Lieu is a Democrat congressman from California, and he really flaunted his ignorance on Twitter this week. This is from the Daily Wire. I'm reasonably confident that if the framers of the U.S. Constitution were alive today, they would be incredibly disappointed by the legislators and professional politicians roaming Capitol Hill. Democrat Ted Lieu, the U.S. House representative from California's 33rd Congressional District, would likely disagree with this notion or at least deflect blame for our modern political quagmire onto Republicans. But then again, what does Ted Lieu know? Now, when it comes to the Constitution, its amendments and the timeline of amendment ratifications, Congressman Lieu is apparently less informed than the citizenry might hope for from an elected official sworn to protect our founding documents. On Thursday, Lieu, who has made a name for himself tweeting nasty things about Donald Trump, put his ignorance on display in a response to a tweet from Ari Melber. Here's what Ari Melber tweeted. Source says Bannon sees 70% chance Trump does not finish his term. Actually, Bannon said it was 30%, not 70, and I don't know what the percentage is. Trump was not familiar with the 25th Amendment. This is what Ari Melber tweeted. I don't know who Ari Melber is. That's the nature of Twitter. Liu's response is classic. Quote, Dear Ari or whoever, the framers designed the 25th Amendment for that hypothetical situation of an unstable, impulsive, unraveling president. Just saying, close quote. I trust that everybody listening right now can see the major problem with Liu's tweet. Namely, that the 25th Amendment was proposed on July the 6th, 1965, and was ratified 584 days later on February 10th, 1967. That, of course, is 131 years after James Madison, who was the last founding father to pass away, died in 1836. The framers of the greatest political document of all time had no hand in writing or designing the 25th Amendment. So there's your Democrats and congressmen, in Congress, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness gracious! You got anything? You got anything to add to that, Alex?
No, it's just typical. There was one congressman, I don't know, I think he was from California, who was afraid that if you I think you were going to put too many people on Guam, the island would tip and people would slide off and drown.
Yeah, that was Hank Johnson of Georgia. I believe, as opposed to what was that woman from Georgia, from I think she was from Atlanta, Cynthia McKinney?
Yeah.
Yeah, she said something similar. Was it she the one, or was it Sheila Jackson Lee who talked about how proud she was of the astronauts who planted the American flag on Mars?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think it was Sheila Jackson Lee. Oh, my goodness gracious. Now, the story number 7, this is kind of fallout from the Hurricane Maria disaster recently, because and before anybody gets any ideas of where I'm headed with this, no, Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico is not Trump's Katrina. It's not. Trump's not doing. Didn't blow anything. That was a situation. That was a disaster beyond even Katrina, because in Puerto Rico, which by the way is an island, and so people, from the rest of the United States, trucks can't drive there. Everything has to be shipped, which is why Trump temporarily waived the Johnson Act, making it easier to do that. But in Puerto Rico, the electrical grid has been destroyed. Roads are impassable. It's going to take months to recover for them. It's not going to be weeks. It's going to be months. And in our Polaroid instant gratification culture, if it can't be done immediately, then people start pointing the fingers of blame. And so, this is Trump's Katrina. Of course, the media didn't waste any time trying to characterize it that way, but it's not true. But here is an effect. Fostia's blog pointed this out earlier this week. With what could be the political effect of what happened in Puerto Rico in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Will Puerto Rico turn Florida blue? Now, actually, there's been quite a bit of immigration from Puerto Rico to the mainland United States, and apparently after Hurricane Maria, Puerto Ricans are leaving for the mainland, for the 50 states, continental United States, at a rate of about 3,000 a day. Now, understand, Puerto Rico has a population, or had a population pre-Hurricane Maria, of about 3 million people. 3.1, 3.2. Well, here is after Hurricane Maria, people are leaving at the rate of 3,000 a day, which if you multiply that out over a full year, that would be 1 million people right there. And as we all know from the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico is a heavily Democrat island, Democrat commonwealth. So, and remember that Trump carried Florida by about 112,000 votes. He carried Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania by a combined 70,000 votes. So depending on where this Puerto Rican immigration were to go, it might turn some states that barely went for Trump. It might turn them back the other direction.
I'm banking on Florida.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, most of them go to Florida. There's a large Puerto Rican community, as a matter of fact, in Central Florida, around Orlando.
There's a climate, and there's a lot of Spanish speakers from Cuba.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, I bring that up as a companion story to this one. It couldn't help but catch my eye. It's let's see if I can get this called up here. It's from Red State. And let's see, it's not wanting to come up. Let me just get this again. It has to do with something that Trump, I don't know if he tweeted it this week or announced it, but here it is. Trump tweets signal end of Puerto Rico recovery efforts. He tweeted, Puerto Rico survived the hurricanes. Now a financial crisis looms largely of their own making, which is true, says Cheryl Atkinson, which obviously Trump was watching TV and saw this. A total lack of accountability, says the governor. Electric and all infrastructure was disaster before hurricanes. Congress to decide how much to spend. We cannot keep FEMA, the military, and the first responders who have been amazing under the most difficult circumstances in Puerto Rico forever. Now, this comes not 2 weeks after he declared that he and Vice President Pence declared that they're going to be with the people of Puerto Rico. We're going to stand with you as long as it takes to get you back, restore everything to where it was. We're not going to leave you. We're going to be by your side. Now, not even 2 weeks later, here's Trump saying that, well, no, we're not going to be there forever. We're considering they're considering just cutting short the recovery efforts. And just think of the optics of that in the context of what the media is going to continue to try to do, casting Hurricane Maria as Trump's Katrina.
We will be with you in the spirit.
Well, being with them in spirit doesn't put food on the table, doesn't create jobs, which is why they're coming here and perhaps turning Florida and who knows what other states blue, and it's just terrible optics. This is where impulsiveness gets Trump in trouble. I'm telling you. We'll go to a short break. It's a floating break, but we'll go to a short break and be back with the home stretch of Constitution Radio. JASmius sitting in for Douglas V. Gibbs. Don't go anywhere.
The Banning Beaumont Cherry Valley Tea Party meets every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. for informal breakfast and discussion. And they meet each month on the second Thursday at 5 p.m., all at the Farms House Restaurant in Banning. Listen to interesting speakers, learn about our Constitution with our free classes, enjoy friendly discussions, and informal dining. Come join us. For more information, call Glenn Stoll, 951-316-3843. Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the businesses advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com.
And now, back to our program.
And we're back here on the Constitution Radio. JASmius sitting in for Douglas V. Gibbs. Like I said before the break, the home stretch. Let's see. We got to pick up the pace here on these. Story number 6. The California legislature has been way too busy. This week they passed a law, and then this week Governor Jerry Brown signed it into law that makes misgendering someone with improper pronouns a jailable offense. Speaking of assaults on the First Amendment.
That's what I'm talking about.
Go ahead.
I say that's what I'm talking about. We allude to it, and they do it. You got Cheryl Atkinson, you just mentioned. They invaded her computer while she was doing a story on Fast and Furious and backed up her narrative. This is totally unconstitutional. It's vicious. It's frightening for anybody sitting alone in their apartment with this going on, and yet they did it.
And it's called the LGBT Senior Bill of Rights. And you knew that this was coming. It was authored by State Senator Scott Wiener. So of course it was. It'll never withstand a court challenge. it's not going to last long. But it's like California let Democrats in California legislature, Governor Brown, they're just doing everything they do is an extended middle finger at Donald Trump, at just normalcy. So that. Geez.
Well, in my stack of clippings, I've got one here from 2006 that says that Sheila Kuehl has passed an ordinance that school test books now have to contain positive information about homosexuals, transgenders, etc.
Mm-hmm.
This is law. So if you're a teacher in a school and you say something that is not complimentary about homosexuality or transgenderism, you're in trouble.
Well, remember how the left always used to accuse conservatives, Christians of, well, you're trying to legislate morality. You're trying to force your values on everyone else. Well, I guess that was the pot calling the kettle black. Shall we say.
Hypocrisy is the name of liberalism.
Mm-hmm. Story number 5, and I got a kick out of this one because we were talking over the top of the hour break about the NFL anthem protests and players standing or kneeling or doing. Some were giving the Black Power salute, which I thought was worse than kneeling, but. That's just me, but
that salute, by the way, is the international communist salute.
Yeah, the irony of this story is it's another facepalm moment. Headline at the Washington Examiner: Trump sits and talks through song lowering the flag at military base amid NFL anthem controversy. Donald Trump sat and talked through the nightly playing of Retreat as the American flag was lowered on a Pennsylvania Air National Guard base during his interview with Sean Hannity. Trump, who has been criticizing NFL players who kneel through the national anthem to protest racism, well, they were protesting Trump, but I digress, has seemed caught off guard by loudspeakers playing Retreat. The song is played every night at military bases to signal the American flag being lowered and the end of the official duty day. Business Insider was the first to notice Trump sitting during the song. Uniformed service members are required to stop what they're doing and salute the flag as it is lowered during the song, while civilians are required to place their hand over their heart. Trump not only did not stand or place his hand over his heart, but instead talked through the song and assumed it was being played to honor him or Hannity. People watching the rally can be seen standing for the song in the background of Trump's interview, but Trump seems to not know what the song means. So, this is just another example of, if the president would just do his homework, just learn these protocols, then he wouldn't create these terrible, embarrassing optics. I mean, I would think that if you're the president of the United States, you should want to be taken seriously, and it's not just going to be handed to you. You got to know things like this. And I would think that he would have learned that, but he didn't, and here we got another terrible optic that makes Trump look bad. If you want your president to look good, then he needs to do his homework.
Is that equivalent to Obama saluting with a Coke cup in his hand?
Well, I think Trump did. I think with Trump it was out of ignorance. He didn't recognize the song. With Obama, he just didn't really care. He just kind of whatever.
Well, I think Trump has got a negative mark there. It's too bad that he didn't know better, and of course he wasn't in the service, so you give him a little bit of a hush on that. But there's really no excuse for it. It's a damn shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. And like I say, if we want Trump to be successful, he's got to do his part. Now, story number 4, this is something that you can't. This is an example of life getting so far ahead of parody that parody can't keep up. Here's a headline at the Daily Wire: Feminist marries herself in Sologamy ceremony. Yeah, feminist married herself on the Australian coastline. You know, the long road to peak feminism starts with funny, well, P-U-S-S-Y hats and slut walks, but ends at a super sad and awkward wedding ceremony where there's one bride and no groom. In what has previously been dubbed as the saddest trend in modern feminism, lonely but totally empowered, women who can't seem to make it work with a man are now buying themselves wedding rings, white dresses, I don't really know the purpose of white in this context, and renting out a venue for their weddings where they marry themselves. Because you can have it all, or something. It said this woman was named Emma Jane, and apparently she had a number of failed relationships. That's what the text read on the video, as Emma Jane is shown on an Australian beach, ready to tell herself how much she loves herself. The feminist decided to propose to herself on Valentine's Day, says the text. Emma Jane walks down an aisle holding a bouquet of flowers. Holding a mirror up to her face, the woman repeats her vows to herself and engages in one long soliloquy of crass narcissism. Emma Jane then places a ring she bought herself onto her own finger, and she lived unhappily ever lonely. But I bet the honeymoon was awesome. That's I don't know what else to say about that. That is how, if you ever saw the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and the antagonist, the villain of the movie, was named Ronin the Accuser. He had a way of speaking that was just unforgettable, and he pronounced this particular word that he pronounced. He said pitiful. It was pitiful, and that's exactly what this is.
These are the people that are accusing Trump of losing his mind. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the rumor has it, actually. Now, in the best Bill Cosby tradition, I told you that story to tell you this one, story number 3. And you'll love this, Alex. Headline of the Daily...
I wanted to make a comment on the last one, but I figured the FCC would probably have something to say.
Yeah, well, that's why I spelled the P word, but... headline at the Daily Wire: Bill Clinton hated Hillary's new book so much he threw it in the garbage. He told his wife what happened made her look bewildered, angry, and confused, and a little bit senile. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those stories to get through it. It's very, very difficult to get through it and maintain one's composure. Hillary Clinton didn't lose the 2016 election. Everyone else lost it for her. So far, she's blamed, and I got to take a big breath here. FBI Director James Comey, Russia, computer bots, WikiLeaks, Bernie Sanders, Facebook, Joe Biden, fake news, Twitter, voter ID laws, a vast right-wing conspiracy, sexism, Barack Obama, ageism, Anthony Weiner, white women, xenophobia, black people, the Electoral College, the DNC, misogyny, women cowed by their husbands, even former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
I wanted to run again.
The two-time loser is now on a tour selling her new book. What happened? It really should have included the question mark, as if she needs more money. She's wandering the country and for some reason Canada, telling a few hundred people at a time that the world conspired against her when she got absolutely pummeled. Well, she didn't get pummeled. She barely beat Donald Trump, or barely lost to Donald Trump, but I'm sure she thought it's the same difference to her. She lost. in the presidential race. Now, Edward Klein, an author who has written several books about the Clintons, reports that Bill Clinton tried to dissuade Hillary on her blame-filled book, because Bill Clinton actually knows something about politics and optics. The New York Post reports Klein's got a new book entitled All Out War, The Plot to Destroy Trump, coming out on October 30th, and he's got some tasty nuggets in there. Here's the quote from the story. Before Hillary sent the manuscript to her publisher, she gave it to Bill to read, and he made major changes with a red pencil, said a close Clinton family friend. But she refused to even read his corrections, and he got so furious he tossed the entire manuscript in the trash. He told her the book made her look bewildered, angry, and confused, and that those were poor qualities in a person who aspired to be a world leader, the friend continued. He hated the title because calling it What Happened would only make people say, "You lost." He urged her to postpone the publication date and rewrite the book, but she yelled at him and said, "The book is finished, and that's how it's going to be published." Klein also writes that Bill told Hillary just a month before the election that she was losing, urging her to campaign in Rust Belt states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, all of which she lost to Trump. She told him Bill was delusional, Klein writes. Well, we've often thought the same thing, but in this case, Bubba was right. Oh, man, I tell you, that I just, what do you say to that, Alex? What do you say to that?
Bewitched, bothered, and bewildered.
Oh, man, I mean, in case anybody wondered, questioned when I said that Hillary Clinton was the worst national major party presidential candidate in American history, there you go.
Her books end up, her and Bill's books end up on the thrift shelf in the 99-cent store.
Yeah, the movies that go straight to DVD. Story number 2, Donald Trump did half a good thing yesterday with regard to the Iran nuclear sellout. Now, he didn't abrogate it as he promised he would, and he hasn't. He's recertified it twice, and it was coming because the agreement with Congress requires that the president certify or recertify every quarter, every 90 days. And yesterday, he decertified it. That's the good news. Bad news is, rather than abrogate what's called the JICPOA, the GCPOA, I'm trying to find, I can never remember what that stands for, but the joint something for plan of action, I think. But instead of abrogating it, just doing like he did with the Paris Climate Accords, he decertified it, but then he threw it to Congress because apparently he wants to be able to blame Congress if they do what he's done twice already. So it's a step in the right direction, definitely. And now Congress has the opportunity to reimpose sanctions on the what I refer to as the Iranian oligarchy. I mean, it's something that could easily have happened 9 months ago, but he finally got around to it, so better late than never. But you see, the downside of it, as I say, is that while the White House claims to be developing a strategy to fight Iran's regional expansion, there's still no firm plan to counter Iran's activities in the Middle East. And Trump's top advisors appear to be committed to Obama's Middle East strategy of doing nothing to stop Iran's expansion. That would include Defense Secretary James Mattis and National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster. Now, under Obama, the United States formed a coalition to defeat ISIS and ISIS alone while ignoring the other regional menaces like Iran. In fact, an argument can be made that by only focusing on ISIS, the U.S.-led coalition has consequently helped Iran and its proxies scoop up territory and influence. While Trump's speech promises action on this front, we have yet to see any evidence of an actual change in approach in Iran's Middle East behavior. But he is abandoning his campaign promise to rip up the Iran nuclear deal. So I look at this as kind of a glass half full, glass half empty. Step in the right direction.
Well, Obama left minefields and booby traps all over the presidential part of the federal government. He put us in strategically impossible, and I mean impossible, positions. The fact that he doubled our national debt reduces our options by a huge factor. The fact that he gave over $1 billion in unmarked bills in the bottom of a transport airplane's belly to the Iranians. The fact that he gave 2,000 high-powered rifles to the drug traffickers. Everywhere you look, what about the dreamers? Everywhere you look, he set it up so that no matter what Trump does, it ain't going to work right.
And since we're really running out of time, story number one, two other executive orders that Trump signed Thursday and yesterday. One purported to allow people to buy health insurance across state lines, which really it doesn't directly order that. What it does do is direct the departments of labor, the Treasury, and Health and Human Services to propose regulations within 90 to 120 days that would move in that direction. But that still seems a little bit like trying to legislate through regulation, which would be a violation of the spirit of Article 1, Section 1. And the other thing, which, and again, this is another case of what took him so long. Trump signed an executive order cutting off cost reduction payments to insurance carriers to reimburse them, basically the bailout for the health insurance companies. So Trump finally cut that off because those payments were completely unconstitutional. The federal courts ruled that last year after the House Republicans sued the administration over this. There was never a congressional appropriation for it. It was just money that Obama said, well, I'm going to spend this anyway. I don't care if Congress appropriated it or not. It completely violated Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution. And of course, the Democrats are going bananas. The media is going nuts about, oh, you sabotaged Obamacare. But no, in this case, Trump was actually belatedly following the United States Constitution. So bravo. Any last thoughts, Alex?
Once again, he's in a position where he doesn't have a lot of good ways to go. And this is by design. Just as one factor, what do we do about the opioid epidemic that has resulted from Obama keeping the borders open?
Well, we're going to have to end with that. Constitution Radio is preempted next Saturday by entertaining an awesome University of Redlands football. Doug will return in 2 weeks, October 28th, with more Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs. My gratitude and thanks to Sean the engineer, to Doug for asking me to sit in for him today, for Alex for joining me on this journey. Have a great rest of the weekend, folks, and we'll see this. Well, I don't know when I'll see you again, but Constitution Radio, Doug, Alex, Dennis Jackson, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. See you then.